Real Madrid dominated the match, possibly their best performance this season. Incredible Dembele saved the passenger from embarrassment in the match against Dunkirk. A real war has unfolded for Cristiano Ronaldo. In which team's lineup will we see the Portuguese at the Club World Championship? And the comeback of Andrea Pirlo to the position of head coach. Which club will be headed by the legend of Italian football? Friends, this is Dose of Football. Be sure to charge your royal likes. Because if today we collect 5,000 thumbs up, then tomorrow a new video will definitely come out. Well, I wish you a pleasant appetite and a pleasant viewing. Juventus appointed Igor Tudor as coach, and could, considering the likely non-continuity of the current coach in his position, call another legend, Andrea Pirlo. Moreover, Juve under his leadership was not so bad, and the coach was fired more because of past ambitions that did not match the club's real situation at the time. Now Pirlo can return to another team. Sampdoria, who is in 18th place with 7 rounds to go until the end of the series, risks being relegated and is trying to save the season. And he is already talking to Pirlo, who was fired at the start of the draw, having missed just 3 rounds. Given the management, I wouldn't recommend Andro save the club from relegation, but let's return to Tudor and Juventus. According to journalist Fabian Della Valle, Tudor may stay at the helm of the Turin club if he achieves 4 goals, making it into the top 4. Stability? Results, a good atmosphere in the locker room, and a clearly structured game model. I have the most doubts about the last point. No, Tudor does have a model, and he will build it. It's very easy to build it, but personally, I would hesitate to name the model. Football in the style of Bee Gees. This is not a concept, it's creative impotence. And if Tudor doesn't come up with something new for a long time, he won't last in Juve. And along with him, probably the sports director Christian Dantoli, who they wanted to fire along with Thiago Motta. Now Giuntoli is looking for new talents for the Turinians, and he is simply delighted with one of them. As Nicolas Kira writes, Giuntoli, who brought Which Kvarceli to Naples, looked around, danced. In the Georgian defender Andrei Bartishvili, the footballer is just called the new Kvarceli. The guy, born in 2009, plays for his home team, the second team of Kalhiti. But not for long. Giuntoli has already noticed him. Will Bartishvili move to Turin? Tottenham fans have urged the management to increase spending to rival top Premier League clubs, asserting that without active transfer market involvement, they won't win the league. But the head of the sports department, Daniel Levy, believes that Tottenham should not risk stability for success that may not come. I often hear calls for us to spend more, considering that we are 9th in the list of the world's richest clubs. However, a more careful study of today's financial indicators shows that such expenses should be sustainable in the long term and within the limits of our operating income. We cannot spend what we do not have, and we will not jeopardize the financial stability of the club. Perhaps that's why the Londoners refused to bring Fabio Paratici back as the club's sporting director. Despite all the rumors, Paratici will take a similar position in Milan. Arsenal's general manager Giorgio Forlani has gone to London to negotiate with the specialist. By the time the video about Paratici's appointment is out, it will likely be officially announced. Paratici is a real genius who also doesn't shy away from getting his hands dirty. Nedved served a 2.5-year disqualification for financial machinations at Juventus. He's top-notch and will immediately focus on the same task he was brought to Juventus for when he arrives in Milan. Nedved will straighten out the payroll, rebuild the squad and shed all the ballast, for example Theo Hernandez. As Nicolas Caira writes, Milan has not yet agreed with Theo on a contract extension. If the issue is not resolved by the end of the season, the footballer will be sold, they won't give the Frenchman a big salary due to his instability and openly weak season. However, the defender has valid questions and goals. Therefore, there is no new contract, and it seems there will not be, and Paratici will have to decide where to place Hernandez. Despite some unhealthy amounts spent on goalkeepers and the double-digit transfer sum, Chelsea still couldn't find a reliable first choice. Now the Blues have 5 goalkeepers. And that's not counting the army of keepers loaned out, including George Petrovic, who was once even the main one. He was sent to Strasbourg. Now the squad includes Lucas Bergstra, Marcus Bettinelli, Eddie Beck, Robert Sanchez, and even Philip Jorgensen. The latter two mainly play, and with varying success, Sanchez does not inspire confidence on crosses. Jorgensen also often gets nervous, which Enzo Moresco is extremely unhappy with. If you believe the rumor, then here the coach asked the management for a new goalkeeper. Moresco likes Vanja Milinkovic-Savic from Torino. So will fall into 20 million euros, and that's in the worst case. This is the amount of compensation. One problem is his age. Chelsea bets on prospective players, and Vane is already 28 years old. Pensioners are also looking at the younger Kelleher from Liverpool. This season, the Irishman is content with the role of Alisson's understudy, and next season, he will become the third choice. After all, Kauser and Georgi Mamardashvili will come, and Kelleher will likely leave the club this summer. According to data, Chelsea is ready to offer 48 million euros for him, although it values the goalkeeper at half the price. Okay, overpayment. These Blues are unlikely to surprise anyone anymore. But I'm still amazed. Why do Londoners repeatedly pick raw material for the tour? An open consumer in the hope of revealing some potential that everyone else just overlooked. It would be okay if Chelsea didn't have money, and it would have been a forced measure. But for hundreds of millions of euros spent on the goalkeeper position, the Blues could have just taken one super goalkeeper of the obvious top and no longer torment their heads. But no, they have to take Petrovic's, Sanchez's, Kelleher's and others in the hope that someone will shoot out. And in the end, only Chelsea itself shoots, moreover, into its own knee. After all, without a reliable keeper, one can only dream about trophies. Cristiano Ronaldo is dissatisfied with the game and the results of Al Nassr. Cristiano moved to Saudi Arabia to add to his trophy collection, but in the end, he only won a semi-final cup. But that's not the point. Coaching changes don't help at all. Stefano Pioli led Milan to the Scudetto but failed to make Al Nassr a strong team. Ex-partner Cristiano Anders Antalisco believes that Ronaldo himself is to blame for everything. But Chris disagrees with him, and therefore, first of all, wants to change the coach, and secondly, demands reinforcements from the management. As journalist Dani reports, Al Nassr is planning to buy West Ham star Mohamed Kudus. The Ghanaian is open to a move to the Saudi Championship. Wenger has been off his game this season, but it's too early for him to leave Europe. Last season, he was the top dribbler in the major leagues, attracting attention from big clubs. However, West Ham may struggle to retain the player, as Al Nassr is willing to pay 84 million for his transfer. With such a partner, Ronaldo has every chance to finally take gold in the local league, but Al Hilal will be strongly against it. According to the information from a reputable tabloid, Salah can still go to Saudi Arabia after this season. Yes, even despite the recent movements in the contract extension. In the Saudi Professional League, they are confident that Wenger is considering a transfer to one of the local clubs in the off-season. Al Hilal is already preparing a staggering offer to get Mohamed to turn down Liverpool. And surprisingly, Salah is genuinely interested and is waiting for an offer from the Saudi club. It seems like he's preparing to go make some money. Imagine what Liverpool will have to scrape together in the market if, on top of the trend, Salah also leaves. Dani Alves has been vindicated in his assault case. Dani spent 14 months in prison and can now expect financial compensation for the damage caused to him during his time in prison. For this, the Brazilian needs to file a petition with the Ministry of Justice. Thus, the former footballer can earn around $20,000. In addition, Dani can rightfully demand the return of 1 million euros deposited as bail upon release. Moreover, Alves is planning to sue the Mexican club Pumas, which terminated his contract. Pumas was supposed to pay the defender 300,000 euros a month, and now thanks to Alves' release, a significant amount is due. The outcome depends on the lawyer. The Brazilian may still return to prison. The girl who accused Dani is planning to appeal the verdict. Her lawyer, Esther Garcia, announced this and added, "It's a step back in the fight against sexual violence, both legally and socially. Our client is very disappointed, saddened, and feels as if she is back in the bathroom where the incident occurred." According to the lawyer, a just verdict in this case could lead to fewer women reporting sexual violence. Pure water manipulation. The court should focus solely on a fair outcome depending on the presented evidence. And them, as it turned out, were not enough to convict Dani. The girl went to the toilet with him voluntarily as seen on cameras, but feminists are unhappy about it. Several women's rights organizations have called for a rally this Monday at Plaça Santa Jaume in Barcelona. They believe that the justice system excessively protects the accused and requires solid evidence to overcome the presumption of innocence. In their opinion, the testimony of the victims should be enough to punish the accused. And Alosa needs to be sent for the net again, because that's what the toilet girl says. The chances of Cristiano Ronaldo wearing the Real Madrid jersey again have sharply increased. All thanks to the upcoming Club World Championship. The management is considering inviting the Portuguese legend again. Moreover, there is no need to sign a long-term contract. It is allowed to register a player only for this tournament. Before it starts, a special transfer window will open, during which it will be possible to sign short-term contracts with footballers. In other words, you can pick a player from another club for a month and then return him back. Under no other circumstances could one imagine Cristiano Ronaldo's comeback to Real Madrid as a footballer. And then such a great opportunity appeared, which is beneficial to everyone. The Portuguese himself will get a chance to win a prestigious international trophy, as Real Madrid's trophy cabinet has been quite dry lately and will get hype from the mere fact of Ronaldo's return to the royal club. However, Real is not the only one who wants to take advantage of this feature. The list of clubs that want to see the Portuguese in their ranks at the Club World Championship is quite large. This includes Al Hilal, Inter Miami, Manchester City, and Paris Saint-Germain. It should be said right away that the information about the transfer to Lionel Messi's club may already be outdated. Fabrizio Romano said that such a transfer is impossible, and his word carries weight in the football news environment. But all the other teams, according to the information available, remain on the list of contenders, and Ronaldo could end up anywhere. But personally, I would prefer to see the return of 40-year-old Cristiano to Madrid. This is much cooler than his transfer to Man City or Paris Saint-Germain, or even more so to Al Hilal. And what does Al Nassr management think about the departure of their main star, who they pay 20 million euros a year? It would seem that it's not very profitable for them to let him go, even considering the end of the season, at least because Ronaldo could get injured while playing for another club. And who will be responsible for that? But, as reported, the management of Al Nassr will not hinder the temporary transfer of the Portuguese, which means there are no obstacles. And this summer, Cristiano can really make this sensational comeback. This summer, Brighton plans to break its own transfer record and earn 20 million euros from the sale of just 2 footballers. Brighton is known for selling its star players at a high price. The most famous transfer remains the move of Moises Caicedo to Chelsea for 160 million euros. Despite this, Brighton has never managed to earn more than 20 million in a single transfer window. The most profitable remains the summer of 2023, when the Seagulls made several major sales for a total sum of 189 million euros, including that very transfer of Caicedo to Chelsea. But this time the stakes will be high, simply huge money is at stake. Which players might Brighton say goodbye to? Firstly, João Pedro's attacking team will be a very desirable target for the upcoming window. His services have attracted interest from 2 major clubs, Liverpool and Newcastle United. The scouting team doesn't have any standout central forwards. Darwin Núñez only shoots well at crows, and Diogo Jota, well, shooting crows isn't exactly his profile. There's a high probability that both players will leave Anfield this summer. Playing without a forward is a bad idea. Arsenal tried it, and nothing good came out of it. That's why Liverpool's management is looking at Brighton's upcoming striker. As for Newcastle, their main star Alexander Isak might leave the team this summer. As an alternative, Sweden's Soroki are also considering the purchase of João Pedro. Brighton's management will ask for £100 million for him. This price seems inflated, but the Seagulls have always been good at selling their footballers. Secondly, Brighton can get £100 million for their defender Carlos Balebo, with Chelsea in London being the main contender for him. In general, the pensioner is having quite a hard time collaborating with Brighton. If this transfer goes through, they will have spent over $300 million on footballers and coaches in just the last couple of windows. For that kind of money, they could have bought some Spanish midfielder. However, not only Pedro and Baleba may leave Brighton this summer. Many of the team's footballers are under the sights of various grants. Jan Kuba, Mintem, Yassin, Ayeri, Jack Hinchelwood are all players who have already managed to show themselves in the English arena despite their young age. Therefore, it is not excluded that Brighton will not part with sales for 20 million. Hunti Fliku will have to throw out Happy in the OCH due to the application for the Champions League. Taking such a heavy decision may force the unexpected return of the Barcelona star by the German coach. As we all remember, last summer, the Polish goalkeeper decided to hang up his boots. His interesting football journey ended, and he could peacefully devote himself to his favorite. However, at the very beginning of the season, Barcelona's main goalkeeper Marc-André ter Stegen suffered a serious injury. According to Union of European Football Association's rules, in such a situation, the Catalans could declare another player for the season, and the management's choice fell on the Polish goalkeeper. Newly appointed agent Robert Lewandowski helped convince his compatriot to put on the football uniform again. But at first, it seemed that this decision was not so significant. Iñaki Peña, Barca's protege, stood on the gates but didn't get game minutes. However, everything changed at the start of the year. Peña was benched for an important match after arriving late to training, violating the team's internal disciplinary code. His substitute conducted that duel horribly. However, Peña did not appear in goal for the next 2 games. Media quickly spread rumors about the strained relationship between the head coach and the goalkeeper. Since then, Peña has not played for Barca, with Chesney taking over as the main goalkeeper. At first, Poliak was harshly criticized, but then he became the mental leader of the team, and his presence in the goal is now seen as a good sign. Barcelona has never lost with Chesney, and with such a talisman they could have made it to the Champions League final, if not for that very thing. Unexpectedly for many, ter Stegen returned to group training. This means that he will be able to get on the field in the near future. Only for him, they will have to kick out of the Champions League application in Wojtas Ásesnogo. Such is the regulation of this tournament. As soon as the injured or sick goalkeeper is able to return to the game, he or she can replace their substitute. And the return of the main goalkeeper must be announced to Federation Internationale de Football Association 24 hours before the next match, in which he or she is to participate according to the regulations. Flick will have to choose between a veteran goalkeeper and a footballer who has provided the necessary confidence in the goalkeeper's position for Barcelona. If the choice falls on the German, then honestly only he will remain to appear in the Cup and the Spanish Championship. And the place in the goal frame in the Champions League will usually be taken by ter Stegen. Boris Saint-Germain did not fly out of the French Cup from the modest Dunkirk. Matvei Safonov started for Paris for the second straight match, conceding 2 goals by the 17th minute. It's important to note that this is not merely a coincidence or a fluke. No, Dunkirk scored quite deservedly. The team has a set positional attack with triangles on the flanks, just like in Klopp's Liverpool. Paris Saint-Germain plays brilliantly on the brink of 2-in-1 situations, unafraid to hold the ball even under the strongest pressing. And the goalkeeper playmaker plays just like Grant, not a club from League 2. At the same time, the team does not complex if it needs to use simpler techniques to organize the game. That's how the second goal happened. Dunkirk's long pass after the pickup was very close to eternity. But the passenger seat is excellent now, especially with Dembele. In the second half, the Princes turned the game around with Dembele scoring twice. Victory for the passenger, 4-2. Despite the location change, we witnessed a fairy tale as Arminia, a third division team, eliminated Bayer in Germany. And the most interesting thing is that it did it for real. Not by fluke, but outplayed the pharmacists. I, however, still didn't understand why Bayer played the way they did. What was the team's plan? Why did the attack end in long balls, not in low play, as it usually does? After all, the pharmacists were not playing against Bayern, Real Madrid, or Barcelona. No, against modest Arminia. And Alonso, as if he believed to the last that the long ball strategy was working, and continued to bet on it. In the end, Bayer had few dangerous moments, but the Armenian team played a fantastic match. They fought relentlessly, pushing themselves to the brink of exhaustion. Remarkably, Bayer's players survived the intense battle. A well-deserved place in the Cup final, an amazing match that I highly recommend watching on our Telegram channel. And don't forget about the Paris Saint-Germain comeback either. You can see everything there, the link is in the description and in the pinned comment. What the hell happened at Santiago Bernabeu yesterday? It was probably the craziest match in Spanish football for the entire season. Only some of Barcelona's matches can compete with it. Yesterday, the Royal Club faced Real Sociedad in the Spanish Cup semi-final second leg. The first game ended 1-0 in favor of Madrid, and if the aggregate score was to be without problems, they just needed not to lose at home. But can Real Madrid really do that? Create problems for themselves during the match, only to heroically solve them at the end? For example, the whole first half was dominated by the home team. They completely controlled the course of the game, but at the whistle for the break, the scoreboard showed a draw. 1-1, the opponent took advantage of the only moment during the half and scored. In the second half, Real maintained control, satisfied with the result and aiming to calmly conclude the match without further issues. However, Lunin and David Alaba, who yesterday drove a few seasons ahead, did not want this. First, the ball after a ricochet from Alaba went between Lunin's legs and ended up in Real's net. Then the Austrian again unsuccessfully put his foot and the ball flew into the net again. But Alaba's and Lunin's mistakes were quickly rectified by Real's attackers, who slightly strained to play these two balls. However, the Ukrainian-Austrian duo was not discouraged, and in the last minutes again brought a goal, which meant that the match goes into overtime. And now attention! To understand how passive Real Madrid was in the attack and how illogical their goals were, here's an interesting fact for you. Basques created only 2 scoring chances, one at the beginning of the match and the other at the very end. Real Madrid dominated the remaining game time and reached the cup final, but it was a hard-fought win. If it weren't for Lunin and Alaba, the game could have been a little bloody. As it was, they had to play a full 90 minutes. And in just 3 days, they have to face Valencia. Luckily, the opponent is on a downswing, but Real rarely has an easy time against flying mice. And that's all for today. Thanks for watching and subscribing. My name is Kirill Kast, and this was your daily dose of football. Peace to your home and Johanga Druzia.